Well, hey everyone, it's Markus, and welcome to more chatting in my jungle room. Today, I'm speaking with Alien Ant Farms, Terry Corso. Terry, hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks
I'm
for
good.
having me.
Oh, look,
I love your plants. I'm a
oh, thank
plant
you.
guy.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I love plants.
I do like, I do like my jungle. So excitedly, Alien Ant Farm and Drowning Pool are coming to Australia for their 2025 Australian tour. It is not very far away because Friday the 7th, it all kicks off in Brisbane. Then
Brisbane,
you go
yeah.
to Sydney, then you go to Melbourne, then you come here to Adelaide, and then you go to Perth. Wow. Tell us about the tour. What can we
Yeah.
expect?
Well, I don't think either of us have been down there since, the early 2000s. It's been quite some time. But the cool thing is that I think both of us had really like back then, we did have records that were, part of a lot of people's lives kind of growing up, like just kind of, they were hit records and they did really well down there. And all these people kind of like, these like generation of people grew up on them and stuff, So, and then even beyond that, we learn on tour now that we're back at it for a little while now that a lot of these people that grew up on the music are like their kids have been hearing the music forever, and now they're bringing them, and it's really cool to see this kind of generational thing happen. But um, that being said, I mean those songs are just kind of like a lot of the songs we'll be playing. Are from those records that like people grew up on or like went to college on or like did a road trip across the country or met their wife or husband or you know what I mean like so it'll be a lot of that I think and for us that's really cool because we get to see the reaction of it.
Like you say, movies, huge song. And then of course the one that took you guys everywhere was Smooth Criminal.
Yes,
2001. How long ago was that? That's crazy.
I
Um,
know, right?
and so I mean that thing's obviously went stratospheric for you at that point. How did you cope with all the craziness?
Yeah, it was quite the accelerated process. Especially for just like kind of hood ratty kids like us. We all grew up together. We've known each other since we were young and high school and stuff, and it was also, the other thing is that was we used to play a different cover every time we played for a while before we got like like kind of out in the real touring world. We'd play local shows and we tried to do a different cover of some song that we liked. It was weird stuff too, like we'd play like an Ilea song or we'd play like the South Park theme or and one day we tried the Smooth Criminal riff. We didn't even know the song yet. We just tried the riff and it hooked up so hardcore with the fans, like everybody was loving it. So that's when it kind of became like a little bit of more of a mainstay in our set. And when we didn't even really plan to put it on anthology to be honest, but the label was pretty into it, and we didn't have plans for it to be a single or anything. So um, I'm not gonna lie, when it started, like basically it was a radio station in New York played it and it started taking off across the country, kind of wildfire, I guess, if you will. Um, and we were kind of like, we were scared to death. We were just like, oh, this is the kiss of death, you know what I mean? And we were really worried. And then basically there was no time for being worried. Like things just went like very quickly and we were doing a lot of cool stuff that was like kind of like gives you that feeling like whoa we've made it or we're making it or you know what I mean, all this crazy iconic shit is happening, you know what I mean, and then in the long run it's like you you we love that song just because if it was a gateway song for us, then a lot of people hung once they heard all the other stuff, which is cool. And now here we are, whatever, like 25 years later, like still, doing stuff like Australia tours or whatever, So it's like kind of like something we were all worried and scared about, in the end, down the road, we're grateful, it's cool, some people might, it's easy to get trolled and whatever on that shit, but like we know the truth and it really like it connected us with a lot of people more than probably if it wasn't there. So we're grateful.
And look, I mean, obviously, when we're talking about Smooth Criminal, I mean, no one would be unaware of this at all, but clearly it was a Michael Jackson song.
Right.
And Michael Jackson, I know, approved it as well. Not so much approved it, but liked what you guys did with it.
Yes.
A massive departure from obviously his version, and yeah, he dug it, I hear, which is great. Do you still enjoy playing that song? So the song that like just went through the roof for you, do
Yeah.
you still enjoy playing it, or is it like, oh, this one again?
No, no, it's really cool. I mean, it's probably no secret now or it ever was that we put it probably usually in the end of the set, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no matter how great of a set we have or a show, and we're having a good set, whatever, like that song always takes it like a few notches higher, you know what I mean? And when you see that shift in the room, it's visible, it's a trip, to see, for one thing, in this day and age, all the phones come out.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's like a sea of phones, but people's faces change, people start smiling, they get happy. It's cool.
Speaking of phones, obviously, when you guys started back in, well, 2001 is when it all took off for you. But I mean, clearly you were, doing stuff before that. The industry has obviously changed so much. Do you find the process of making music these days easier or more challenging?
It's I think it's probably, if I had to like pick one of the two, I'd say easier.
Yep.
But it's just different, I mean, but the thing is that like in our time in our career or whatever, we've just kind of learned, we've recorded so many different ways and songs have come about so many different ways, that there's no real formula, like there's no, kind of there's no like sacred way we do it or anything, like, so we've kind of grown like a little bit of a, we've grown a little adapted to kind of just this adversity, if you will, and we know that there's no real way a song's going to come about, whether it's us standing in a room together looking at each other, or if it's going to be some emails that we send with a little clever riff or something, but a lot of the latter is what happens these days, because a lot of what the last record, like I think going back on the pandemic and the newest record, that like is kind of a baby of like a product of the pandemic and a hard reset for the band, like a reboot. And a lot of the production of that, like as far as writing and like sharing demos, was all email, because nobody was really getting together.
Yeah.
So, I guess to answer your question, yeah, it's easier to sit at home and work and send emails to each other,
Yeah.
definitely, than getting in your car, loading your gear, driving to the rehearsal spot or whatever, you know what I mean? So technically it is, but as far as like creating music, as far as creating the actual product of music, or the art, if you will, like that's either easy or hard. There's nothing really changed about that.
So Mantras, obviously is your most recent album, which is incredible,
Oh,
great.
thank you.
I love it so much. There was obviously quite
Thank you.
a break
Thank you very much.
that and the last one.
We've always kind of been an intermittent band, in the sense that like we take these breaks, but um there's actually two records between Truant
Mantra.
and and Mantras. There's a record called um Up in the Attic, which is basically I wasn't even in the band at the time of this record. I had left the band for a handful of years. But this was made in the like kind of in the dying days of some labels, you know what I mean? So it was easy for it to get kind of lost in sight and overlooked. Um, and then there's another record after that called Always and Forever that we put out on an independent record that really record company that really just kind of it just didn't work out. It was a bad fit and the whole thing kind of went afoul. So unfortunately these cool records of like I mean I can't say whether they're our best work or our worst work, but I can say that there's a bunch of Ant Farm music there actually still. You know, you might find uh fans might find something in there if they're unaware of those records.
Well,
But to answer your question, we always take these long gaps. We've never been as consistent as we should, and maybe those records might have been bigger if we were.
so, hey, growing up and getting into the music industry, or discovering your love of music, who were you listening to? Who were you really jamming to in the bedroom?
Um, gosh, I mean, my first real love was probably Kiss.
Ah,
You know, like I was a little kid, and I was probably each one of them for Halloween, and it's just this real like cool kind of carnivalesque thing when you're a kid. It's more than just like a band or whatever, you know. But so I'd have to say them. I don't know. I was into a lot of metal before I was into a lot of punk rock. So it's like every stage I had probably a favorite band that like turned me on to whatever that music was. You know what I mean? Like metal, I was like, okay, Judas Priest. I love Judas Priest.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and they were my band for like my whole metal, and then like I got into punk and then I love Black Flag or whatever. So it's like I feel like it's hard to kind of bring it into one entity. But yeah, I don't the band that's always probably been there is Led Zeppelin.
Oh, yep. So
Yeah.
these days, do you listen to the old school music, or do you listen
Yeah.
to a bit of contemporary music these days as well?
I try my best to keep up with, stuff that Spotify like suggests to me or whatever and but I tend to get a good little mix, you know what I mean? I tend to I'm really into like heavier music and metal more now in my later years or whatever, you know. I still love everything. I grew up very eclectic music taste, but I really always just loved I think that heavy music like kind of like metal and hardcore is probably the most it's like the only remaining like earnest music, you know what I mean? Like they're very convicted in what they do and it's just very, strict in a way or whatever, if you will. But anyways, it's a lot of heart in the music, and it's very thoughtful as to like how technical it can be and how to use like this kind of box of tricks, that is metal music, and how to like use that box of tricks. In your own way and try and outdo everybody else. Like to me, that's fun and cool. And I think in a very tech way because I'm a guitarist and I love a lot of these bands, that are like deathcore bands and stuff like that. But anyways, Thy Art Is Murder. Do you like Thy Art Is Murder? I love them.
Yeah, yep.
Aussie band, Aussie boys. I know a couple of the guys. They're really great. Great
Uh,
band.
so when you get to Australia, are there any people you want to catch up with? You
Yeah,
gonna?
actually, Lee. I get to finally hang out with Lee from. He's the original drummer from Thy Art. Lee Stanton. He's a great friend of Swaggy. He's a great friend of mine. We haven't hung out in a long time. I'll probably see Sean from the art. A couple people. We had an Australian tour manager for a lot of the beginning of the band, a guy named Steve Varga. It'll be nice to see him, and we'll probably see his wife, who we haven't seen in
Cool.
decades. So
Yeah.
it's
Um,
going to be a lot of that. People we haven't seen in years. So.
so after the tour, after the Australian tour, what is the rest of the plans for 2025? I know that you're still riding the high of the Mantra album, but is there
Yeah,
music coming out? What can we expect from
we
a?
have, yeah, we're gonna try and we like. I think I said before, we're just so proud of this record that we're gonna try and ride it as long as we can. But I think we'll do things sprinkled out throughout it. we have plans for like an EP maybe by summer,
Yeah.
hopefully. Well, that'll come with like a new video and maybe some package stuff. The calendar's filled with little. We have some small tours that are basically surrounding festivals that we're doing. You know what I mean? So we have a lot of work, but it's gonna be a lot of jumping around. You know what I mean? So stuff like that. The EP, like I said, um, I think we're gonna try and finally get an anthology out on vinyl
Yeah.
because the 25th anniversary is coming up.
Yep.
So I think that's one of our plans. I think we're going to re-release our independent record, Greatest Hits,
Yep.
because it's not on Spotify or anything. So I think we might get it up there and make a big deal about it, and maybe put it on vinyl and stuff. So we have a lot of, we're definitely like plugged into a lot of deals right now that we're trying to work out. We're spinning a few plates.
Terry, it sounds like you guys are still busy and
Yes.
relevant as ever. Hey, I cannot wait to see Alien Ant Farm and a Drowning Pool when they hit Adelaide. So Adelaide is the 11th of February at the Lion Arts Factory, but you kick it off in Brisbane, like I said, on the 7th of February, wrap it up on the 12th of February. That's pretty much back-to-back days. You guys are going to be tired by the time you get home.
Yeah.
But
It's
Terry,
gonna be a little stretch, but it's gonna be fun.
yeah,
Get that adrenaline boost every night at least.
totally. And then you know what? It's summer over here, so you can hang out at the beach, do all your favorite little things in between.
I hope we get some time. Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be nice. If not, we'll have to come back soon for a proper like longer trip or something.
With your vinyls, because Australia loves their vinyl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terry Corso, what an absolute pleasure. Wish you all the best for an amazing Australian tour 2025. And I can't wait to catch up with you when you hit Adelaide at Lion Arts Factory.
Killer. Thank you. I can't wait to meet you and we'll see you real soon. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Thanks, my friend. Bye bye.